Step in, lean in, mic on, and begin. Hey! Been quiet too long, chewed up tongue. Turn down songs, clock keeps ticking on the wall. But your name's still missing from the roll call. Let your voice be heard, say every single word. From the low notes to the sky, throw your hands up high. Let your voice be heard, loud, clear, undeterred. You got a light, buddy?
Yeah, sure, kid. There you go.
And your wallet.
Nick, give him your wallet.
If it shakes the room, that's how you know it's you, yeah. Oh, yeah. You got a truth tucked deep in your chest. Heartbeat tapping out, say it, confess. Crowd might stare, let them do what they do. They never held a fire living in you. Let your voice be heard. Say every single word. From the low notes to the sky. Throw your hands up high. Let your voice be heard, loud, clear, undeterred. If it shakes the room, that's how you know it's you, yeah. Speak up, name your dream out loud. Stand up, you're the leader of this crowd. One spark, one shout, watch the silence melt. That power in your mouth is the truest thing you felt. Every single word, from the low notes to the sky. Throw your hands up high, up high. Let your voice be heard, loud, clear, undeterred. If it shakes the room, that's how you know it's you.
Welcome once again. That's right, Bernadette. I see you laughing. That let your voice be heard. That's something to be reckoned with. It's my favorite song nowadays. Welcome everybody. Welcome.
See you too.
We haven't seen you in a while, man. So Mr. Robert Cotton back on Let Your Voice Be Heard tonight. Your story and your adventure and what you've been through is so amazing, so encouraging that it doesn't end, it doesn't stop. That's why you're back. It's like what's the gift that keeps giving. It doesn't stop. Every time we get one of your amazing feats that you've accomplished, because they are feats to me. Riding a bike 200 miles is an extreme feat for me. So every time we get through one, there's some more to the story. In case some of you guys don't know, Robert Cotton is amazing. Robert has given us his life story on Let Your Voice Be Heard Talk Radio. Robert, I don't know if I want to even attempt to go over your life story, but I do need people to know who you are and what you've accomplished. Robert started off as a young kid in the neighborhood working on bike. The chain broke or something. You couldn't find a link to it, so you take it to Robert. And Robert was amazing to me is that as a young teenager, I couldn't even imagine he had a credit account with the local auto parts store. As a young teenager, I couldn't imagine that, but that's awesome in itself. Robert was I don't know, still is, I guess, expert on elevators.
Yep. Fixing
elevators. And Robert ended up working with a company fixing elevators and ended up in an awful accident. Robert got burned. How much was it? 40%?
43% to be exact.
His body was burned. Robert was also a cyclist. Did those more than I didn't even say a marathon cyclist. He did 100 miles. Started off a 100-mile ride. That's outlandish to me. Go to the grocery store, go to the corner store on a bike and back, and I'm good. And he's riding 100 miles, and then capped it off. Said that he started riding. To refresh my memory, how long were those rides, man? How long did it take to ride? How long does it take to ride 200 miles on a bicycle?
Well, when you're in shape and when you've trained, and depending on the nature of the ride, you know, how much overall climbing there is, how many mountains to go over, it's probably 12 to 14 hours. I mean, that's not a race pace. That's not a racer. That's not Tour de France. The Tour de France guys do it in half that time. So you're riding smart. So I would say it's all day. It's from sunrise to sunset, just about.
You say all month? Did you say?
Yeah.
All day?
All day.
All day. How long would it take me to ride the bike for 200 miles? That'd be like all year.
Well, you know, there's rest stops and a lunch break and things like that. But I do remember one ride, which was one of the harder ones. I stayed with some friends in San Ramon, which is here in the Bay Area. And they let me spend the night because it was close to where the start finish was. And I left their house at like 5 a.m. to get on the bike at the official start at 5:30 in the morning. And that ride did not end until after sunset, probably, 8 or 9 p.m. in the summertime or in the fall. And I remember my friend called me the next day and said, we were having dinner at 7 o'clock and we said, Robert is still out there riding his bike and he left at 5:30 this morning. So it was a long day. And, again, I trained for it. It wasn't just go out and do it. I was trained for it. So it felt pretty good.
Man, that's amazing to me. And that's not even the most amazing part of this about the bike riding is that, as we said, Robert had an awful accident. He got burned to 43% of his body. And we're in the beginning of the recovery. I didn't even go over what he'd been through in the hospital. That's a whole other part of the story. But in the beginning of his recovery in the hospital, mind you, his body is burned and he's recovering from these. That's got to be excruciating to be burned that severe. But Robert trained, and during, I don't know if did you say within 30 days of your recovery, Robert started riding those 200-mile bike rides again.
It wasn't 30 days. No. I was in the hospital a total of 21 days in the burn ICU.
Excuse me?
21 days in the burn ICU. And typically the ratio is 1 day in the burn ICU for every percentage of burn. So I should have been in the hospital about 40 days. I cut it off. It went a lot less because I was in such great shape. I did 3 of the hardest rides I'd ever done within about 30 days of my burn injury date. So
wow.
I was in tip-top shape. But my first ride was, it was a very small ride, maybe a mile or two, and it felt like 100 miles. And that was about a month after I got out of the hospital. But again, that was in the neighborhood. And that got me started to get on the bike again. And I was training very slowly and very methodically. And I was able to be in shape and feel confident enough to do my first 100-mile ride 90 days from the day I was injured. I was injured in July, middle of July, and I did this ride middle of October. So it was 90 days from the time I was hurt. So that would include the hospital time. So I was very proud of that, and it meant a lot to me to get that.
Recording in progress.
So wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That is awesome. And during the recovery, if Mike got back on the bikes during while he's recovering from all this stuff, he got back doing these long bike rides. Something else amazing happened, and Mike, you ended up while still in recovery, because that took a long time. You started to go and to a burn camp and help children that were burned as well. And that was an amazing story as well, with the zeal you had to help these kids who were burned severely, good, because you gave stories about kids burned, like some of their members burned off, and you wouldn't help those kids. And today you still do the same thing. You came. I asked you during our interview, because I was amazed. I said, "How did you do this? What did you have? What kind of drive did this take?" And you said that your dad had given you guys a phrase that I use now. And says, how bad do you want it? And what are you willing to do to get it?
Yep.
And that phrase sticks with me today, since you said that. Now, but that being said, you did all this and came through your recovery, and you helped all of these kids at the burn camp, which you still do today. You're still in contact with them, and you still affiliated with the burn camp, with the children and all of that, right?
Yep.
And your take on this phrase that your dad gave you, how bad do you want it, and what are you willing to do to get it, at this point, as I was talking to you, has taken on a whole nother outlook in your life. It's taken on a whole nother view. So you have kind of not twisted it, but kind of replaced some things of focus of how bad, of what you want really bad, and what you're willing to do to achieve that. And you are one of the few, there's one other guy that I have interviewed on here that has kind of the same zeal for helping people. Now, you've taken on a form of something totally different for yourself. Is that what you get out of helping someone else? So at this point, there's a few things that you talked about, me and you and I talked about, but I'm gonna let you take over from here and tell us what's going on, what you've done after all of this stuff, what you've been doing, and what's going on, what's up to here, what are you doing now? And I want to let everybody on this panel, all the panel members, know I get the honor and the pleasure of interviewing you in our podcast studio this coming weekend, I think.
Yep.
Wow. That you'll be here in Miami with us, man, live in living color. Yes. What a blessing that's going to be. What awesome.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it. The whole team's looking forward to it. We are preparing for you to arrive, and I'm looking forward to it. It will be a blessing. I'm going to turn it over to you, Robert, and bring us from. You bring it from wherever you want to start off at, and bring us on into how you got where you're at now and what you're doing now and some of the things you've done. The floor is yours, Mr. Robert Cotton.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. It's always energizing to talk to you. So getting back in shape and getting back on the bike, the bike was a really good tool for me to get back in shape, even though I was wearing the pressure garments that burn survivors wear. I wore those garments for a total of 5.5 years. Not the same garment, but I would get new garments. But it's a pressure suit to help your skin heal flat. It has to heal flat. If you don't have pressure on it, it'll heal really bumpy. So I'm doing all these rides wearing these. It's like a whole stocking outfit underneath my cycling jerseys and such. And it felt great to do these rides and get these things under my belt. However, it meant a little bit more to me to share it with somebody. The first 100-mile ride, that was 90 days after my injuries, I will never forget, as long as I live, hitting the finish line at the finish with my buddy Donnie, who I admire and respect. He's a mentor of mine in many ways. And I remember crossing the line with him, and I was on his right side. because my right arm had full thickness skin grafting. So I still did not have the flexibility to even reach down and grab my water bottle out of the bottle cage on the bike. They're just right there below you. I didn't have the grip and the flexibility and the strength to do that. So I was doing it with my left hand. But anyway, I crossed the line, and we held our hands up high as we crossed the line. And it just, sharing that, it's another level of energy. I get a lot of satisfaction out of doing the rides on my own, and having someone else to share that with really meant a lot to me. And that whole summer camp, burn survivor camp, that was so amazing. What we would do is, seeing these kids some of them were burned far severely, far more than I was, like you said about some limbs missing and deformations and such. It's just their spirit was never, ever broken at all. If anything, it was more pronounced, more inspiring. They were just, they wanted to be there and have fun. And what we would do in the cabin is we had a dry erase board, and we would write down things they've never done in their life before, like go-karts, mini bikes, archery, riding a horse, arts and crafts, all the camp activities, swimming, getting a swim band, getting through the deep end without any help. And we would write these goals down, and you see these kids like thinking, will I ever get the chance this week to do this, or will I be good at it? And as the week would go on, we would check off those boxes, and you just see these kids' confidence build, and to share the moment with them. I'll never forget one boy. It happens a lot, but one stood out. We're getting ready to get on the go-karts for the first time. A go-kart's a big thing, How many go-karts are around for a kid to ride? This kid was literally shaking. He was so excited to get on that go-kart for the first time. To share that with him, when we get off, high five, hug, and that connection remains even year to year to year to year. You can look at that kid. He's not in your cabin anymore, and he's growing up. He's in another cabin. He's a senior. He may be your co-counselor. There's that connection. We look at each other and just smile. We were through something together. We really bonded on that. And there's probably easily 100, 200 kids that you share that with, and it's so special, and it means so much. So for me, that how bad do you want it was getting back in shape, getting on the bike, getting my life back, getting into rock climbing and snowboarding, other activities. And I put that to the same use in sharing the joy of accomplishments from me or from others, if I can be part of it. It's just so satisfying for me to have that moment to share something like that with somebody. And it's something that doesn't leave your brain at all. One of my buddies, it may have been one of those hardcore rides, the first time of doing that, I did it with my buddy Martin. And there was other people too, but he and I rode together the whole time. And we were at the last rest stop before the last major climb over this hill. It was 5 mountain passes. It's called the Markleeville Death Ride, 123 miles, 16,000 feet of total climbing. That would be the equivalent of a mountain stage in the Tour de France, what they're doing as we speak. They're in the mountains right now. And those guys finish it in like 5 or 6 hours, and we're out there, 11 or 12 hours. But regardless, we're at the last rest stop taking a break. It was hot, and we have one more 9-mile climb to do. And this is where it really tests your core. And that's where it comes out of how bad do you want it? What are you willing to do to get it? You got to suffer up this last hill. It's going to hurt. You got to pace yourself. You can make it. You got to hear those voices. Anyway, Martin and I are sitting on this rest stop, and we're just, it's one of these like, can we finish this thing? It's so hot. We've already done 100 miles, and we got another 1,500 feet and 9 miles to climb to finish this thing. And we're both with our heads in our hands. And somebody took a photograph. I didn't even know it, but Martin turned away from the camera. We don't know who this guy was. We finished the ride, high five, hugs. We feel great. A month later, my cousin calls me, and the in-flight magazine for Southwest Airlines had an article on the death ride. And Martin and our picture from that rest stop was in the magazine, and we're both sitting there like this, contemplating getting up that last hill. And it was a nice picture. But it's just, again, sharing that moment, it's the best. I can't put anything else on the satisfaction and the joy I get from it. And the kids, they get their swim bands. A red band is shallow end, a green band is shallow and maybe medium deep, and then I think it's the yellow band is total access to the full pool. So the kids take swim tests to up their bands during the week, and you're on the sidelines cheering them. You can do this. Come on, let's go. And you practice with them. And I've had kids come up to me subsequent years of camp and say, do you remember you helped me get that yellow band? I'll never forget that. I wore that yellow band all summer to show my friends that I got it. And it just means so much. Some of them I don't remember. I go, yeah, I think you're right. But it just means so much to share that. That's how bad do you want it? What are you willing to do to get it? And then you get something like that out of it. It's just for me, it's a miracle. It's great. It's so satisfying.
It's really good. That's good stuff. That's really good stuff. Now, how did you take those experiences once you left the burn camp? Well, not left it, but you're not there in person right every day like that anymore. So now you started doing other things aside of that. I even heard something about 9/11 in Washington. I heard a lot of these things. So the phrase of how bad you want it, what are you willing to do to get it? Now that kind of changes to how bad do you want something else?
And that would be giving back, if you will. And thank you for transitioning that for me.
Yes,
I have these pieces in my mind, and that was one. So I get back on the bike. I get back in shape. I'm able to go back to work. I'm working at the local subway system here in the Bay Area called Bay Area Rapid Transit, known as BART. And they all know I'm a burn survivor because I'm wearing the suit, and they ask me, what's the suit thing you're wearing? And for the first 3 years I was working there, I was wearing the suit, and they were, oh, wow, you're healing. Wow. So then, excuse me, a couple of years after I got hired, 9/11 happened. And I mentioned it to my boss. I said, I would like to go back and counsel some of the burn survivors because there was a lot of burn survivors from that. And it went up the chain of command, and they were all behind me and supporting me. Take your time off, whatever you need. We'll help you out with that. We'll support you. And so I made a trip about a month after 9/11 because kind of had to wait for them to get out of the acute care into general care, if you will, in the hospital. So I went back for 2 weeks, 1 week in New York and maybe a week and a half in New York, and another part of a week in Washington, D.C. The New York time was great. I went to a couple of different burn wards and met some burn survivors, and I was sharing my story. Here's my skin. Here's my garments I'm wearing. Here's what I went through, and here's what you can expect. And there was a lot of back and forth. I spent several days in the burn ward with them and answering questions and hanging out and not saying anything, just being there for them, not necessarily. And then I took a break off there in New York to go to D.C., and it was a little bit harder to access the burn wards because it was a lot of military. So that there were layers there, and I did meet some families and offered my assistance, but to get through those layers at the military level was a lot more difficult. So then I ended up, after a couple of days, I went back to New York and finished out some time there, and it was very satisfying. And then Bart wanted to have me write an article about it, which I did, and it went into one of their records somewhere. I don't remember where it went. And then a couple of years after that, another coworker who was in the electrical department, I was in the elevator escalator department. BART is a third rail system, so it's super, super, super high voltage coming into the BART system into a substation, and they rectify that power down from 34,000 volts to 1,000 volts, DC for the trains. Anyway, long story short, one of the electricians was working in one of the high voltage, the 34,000 cavities where these gigantic breakers are, the circuit breakers. In your house, you see those little circuit breakers? These circuit breakers are the size of a dishwasher because they're thousands of amps. Anyway, he was inside there and an arc occurred, and he ended up getting some burn injuries similar to mine. So when that happened, right away, the chief engineer got a hold of me and he said, "You are going to be communicating with him throughout this experience for him. I want you part of it." "Yes, sir, of course, I'd be glad to." So I consulted with him and his family and told him which doctors and which care I had. And he ended up ultimately going a very similar path that I did. But I was kind of the go-to at BART for sure, but also from the St. Francis Burn Ward where I was treated. They were calling me maybe a month or two after I got out of the hospital. "Hey, can you come in? We have another burn survivor that would really, I think, gain a lot from hearing your story and seeing where you're at in your burns and your recovery, because it's fairly new." And so I did that for a couple of years through different time periods in the burn ward, and that was really fun and really helpful. And it took me back to my recovery at different stages. Some were early on and some were later. And even today, when I talk about it, I'm right back there like it was yesterday. So again, that sharing, how bad do you want it? I wanted to share my story, and if I can help people and they can gain something from it, we have that bond that I mentioned with the kids at camp. I have that bond with somebody, and it's really satisfying. So I'm not shy about it. I take my shirt off, and I did that in New York. Here's my skin, and here's where I'm at, and here's my garments, and this is what I'm doing. And it's not easy. You got to work. It's not a gift. It's not just, oh, you're going to be fine. It takes a lot of effort. And I had follow-up surgeries, and you're going to have follow-up surgeries, and met a lot of burn survivors along the way. The kids and adults. There's just something about somebody who has to go through something at that level, at that degree. It's painful. It's disruptive. It changes you. It changes your appearance, outside and inside. Outside is one thing, inside's another. How strong are you? You can get through this. You get through it. You're victorious with it. You're a different person as a result. I've seen it. And those kids who are graduating, through the camp, that when they graduate out and can become counselors and such, the confidence level of these kids is just astounding. It's like, wow, to be around that. It's so rewarding, and it's so touching to see these kids. Some kids I saw when they were 5 years old, and I was there 17 years total. So those kids, a lot of the kids graduated out, became counselors, and I had them as co-counselors. I remember you when you were 10. Do you remember we did this and that? Yeah, you remember that and this, and
right.
We're working together, and they appreciated the camp so much, they wanted to give back. And to be around somebody. Here's a teenager, he's 18, 19, 20 years old, talking about giving back and what it meant to him and her. Many of these kids, and I remember hearing from some of the kids, we really appreciate what you counselors went through to be here for us, because we grew up through camp, we became counselors, we go to college and we get jobs, and we had to ask our bosses for time off to go to camp. And it was a challenge. And they told their boss, this really means a lot to me. I really need to go to camp, and I hope I can do it. And I don't want to lose this job. They would put forth in such a way they really wanted it bad. And the bosses would recognize those who care, and there are many who care. Well, you know what? Since that means so much to you to volunteer for a week at this camp, I want to support you in that. So a lot of the companies were behind them and give them T-shirts and make donations or boxes of stuff that we needed. So it's just, this joy is just snowballing, if you will. These things just start happening, and you turn around and it's like, you came up with that, wow, and these guys came up with that, wow, and this is that, and Bart gave me some stuff. I got some uniforms for the kids for different costume days. They dress up, and I brought some tools from Bart, these gnarly tools these kids like to hang around with. And so it's just this flowing and perpetuating energy that is just so wonderful to be around. And since I'm not involved in the camp on an annual basis, I do other things. There's the Christmas party, there's fundraisers, golf tournaments. You can chaperone the bus. I've done that. You can go to camp for a day and hang out with the kids. So there's a litany of events going on, and that I really enjoy being part of. And a lot of the gang are there. These counselors are wonderful to work with. So it's just, for me, that to have that injected at that time period of my recovery was a golden gift from the heavens. It was just so powerful and so energizing, and meant so much to see so many different aspects of burn recovery. A lot of burn survivors may not get exposed to that. They do their thing, they go to physical therapy, they get back to work, but they may not get exposed to that world of all these kids and adults who are burn survivors. And that's where that Burn Foundation, the Elisa Ann Roosh Burn Foundation, aarbf.org, they come through big time, and I just adore them. And anytime there's something going on that they need help with, I want to be there for them. It's really wonderful. It really means a lot. And when you share joy, you double it. So that's what it comes back to me. It doubles, and
Right.
it energizes me. It's my adrenaline. Whatever you call it, put a title on it. It's just get out of my way. I'm energized. This is going to happen, kind of thing.
Yeah. I listen. I know that the burn center with these children was the highlight of your recovery. That and still is. It's not hard to tell that they really inspired and encouraged you in a lot of ways. Those children did. I'm going to ask a question off of that, a little bit off of that. I'm a little interested in what did it look like, because that 9/11 thing was a lot, man. A lot of people were hurt, burned, and everything in that. What did that burn unit look like?
Well, they're burn survivors, and they were involved in a very traumatic, very scary, life-threatening, absolutely insane event. One gentleman I remember, when I was talking to him, hanging out with him in his room, and he had some burns, and he told me, he stared at me, he said, I walked into the elevator, the doors were open, I was in the elevator the moment the plane hit the building, the first building, and he said, jet fuel came down the elevator shaft, and it became engulfed, it became inflamed, if you will. It caught on fire, and that's where his burns were. Luckily, it wasn't super severe, but he did have burns on his head and his neck and his shoulders from like a splattering of, gasoline, jet fuel that was on fire. Right. And he looked at me, he stared at me, and he said, when that happened, I thought that was the end. He stared at me and he said that. And he said, somehow I got out of the elevator, and somehow I got rescued, and somehow I got out of the building, and here I am. And he says, I'm so thankful I'm here. And, to hear that and to share that with him heart to heart, I shared with him my experience, which wasn't quite like his. Mine was severe, don't get me wrong, I'm not minimizing it, but to hear people, there were several that had similar stories like that about, surviving these things. And of course, you hear the stories about those that did not when the buildings collapsed, but there were many that just, had to get out of the building, found a way, found firemen, got rescued. I mean, it was pretty wild. And there was a lot of media. So there was, somebody got a picture of me, and I remember it being in the Wall Street Journal, but I can't find that article anymore. They, about me coming to help. And I didn't want that. I was there for them. But it was a lot of media attention, if you will, because, the whole world was watching that. So it was pretty intense. And then going down to ground zero, seeing all that, it was so sad. Here's where this massive 100 and whatever 5-story, 110-story building used to be. And I actually, in the early 80s, I took a trip back east. I have some family there. And I went up to the observation deck of the Twin Towers, one of the Twin Towers. And it was an incredible experience being in that massive structure. And here I am visiting, and it was gone, and these people survived. And it was a lot to take in. And I wanted to be supportive, hear them out, share my experience, and do the best I could with that. And it was a little intense. Hearing some of these stories.
Yeah, I bet. There's a lot of stuff going on around you, Robert, and I'm wondering, and I'm sure everybody's wondering, when we can expect to pick up that book on Amazon, How Bad You Want It, and what he will do to get it. Since while we're waiting on the book, I saw something on you. I saw you on NBC recently. Well, tell me something. What was that all about? Tell us about that.
Thank you. It's amazing. I get phone calls and emails and texts from friends. What happened was I got a call from an NBC reporter. He got my name. He knows I'm an elevator consultant. And he knew I worked for a transit agency. And he told me that there was a very, very sad and unfortunate incident that occurred in one of the Boston stations, Somerville or something like that. I forgot the name of the station. Where a gentleman early in the morning when the station just opened was descending on an escalator, got tripped up at the bottom, and his clothing was such that it got stuck in the escalator, and the escalator kept running. There isn't any sensor in an escalator that would sense, oh, there's clothing in the escalator, let's stop the escalator. It's more for machinery. If the machinery gets jammed up, that's what's going to stop it. So anyway, what happened was he was descending the escalator, he fell. As he hit the bottom, he fell backwards, and his kind of shoulders and neck were kind of at the point where they're called comb teeth, where the steps disappear and mesh with those comb segments, they're called. And it slowly choked him, actually. And it was sad because he was down in that posture, in that position, for over 20 minutes. And over 12 people walked down the stairs right next to him and just looked at him and walked on. And it was just such a shame. Nobody walked over and hit the stop button and were able to pull him back up and save him. And so this NBC reporter wanted me to, he interviewed me, and I kind of gave my background and opinion on what happened and what the transit agency's responsibilities would be, and how unfortunate it was. And there was a lot of talk about escalators, which I know a lot about. I've been in the industry over 40 years. So I answered a number of questions on that. And there was a lot of follow-up with him. He sent me a number of emails. Can you clarify this? Can you clarify that? There's a lot of these questions we're getting, and they broadcast it out over a number of NBC network stations, and it had a lot of appeal and a lot of feedback about how tragic this was and how it could have been prevented. So it was, I was gratified they reached out to me, and I was also happy to help them out with that story. And it did get a lot of coverage, which is nice. And if something comes from it, great. My name is out there a little bit more, but it really felt good to give something back again and help this reporter. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, your name is out there. Your name is out there. There's also some talk about Paramount filming your story. How much are you gonna dedicate towards your injuries?
You mean well, the injuries, if I have to say, I quoted that famous soccer player in one of these earlier broadcasts about, it's Rapone, I think her last name is, she talked about an injury she had, which kind of put her career on hold for a while. And she talked about, she was thankful for that opportunity of having that injury, even how warped that sounds. And I can relate to that because my life was enhanced and changed and inspired and energized and completely sent to another level as a result of my burns and the recovery and the Burn Foundation and all the people I met. So as warped as it sounds, I would have never learned any of that stuff had I not been burn injured. And in a way, it's not that this may come from a Bible verse, I don't know, but I heard it somewhere. It's not that all things are good, there's good in all things. This was a tragic thing. It almost cost me my life, and I got a second chance. And it taught me a lot about myself, what I'm capable of. If I focus on it, how bad do I want it? Set some goals, achieve those goals, share the joy. I would have never had that opportunity to explore that whole aspect of my life and this whole new opportunity and get a second chance had I not been burn injured. So in a way, I'm thankful I was burn injured, as warped and weird as that sounds. I, of course, would never want to go through that again, being in the ICU and all the discomfort of the skin grafting and so on. But it's just take something that was bad, lemons, and make it into lemonade. It just, everything I did after my burn injuries, all those activities, all those special things I did, my favorite pizza place, my favorite frozen yogurt shop, my favorite hike, my favorite bike ride. When I did those again after my burn injuries, it was as if I was doing it for the first time. And I really looked at it from a different perspective. How lucky I am to have this opportunity to do this thing again. And it could have been taken away from me. It almost was. And I get to do this again. Isn't that awesome? And I get emotional about it. I finish these bike rides. I'm crying at the end of the bike ride. It's just, I got to do this ride and help these people. A lot of them are for charities and benefits and such. And, it feels so good to give back. It really feels good. I get a lot out of that. I'm sure there's a lot of people that feel that way as well. And it's fuel for my fire, or fuel for my engine, if you will. It just means a lot to me to do that. And if there was they want to do a movie, and that could be the burn, that whole part of the burn injury recovery can be part of that. I think it would be great. I'm all for it. If it happens, it's great. I would love to see it.
I would too. Let me turn this over a little bit to some of the panel and see if anybody has any comments or questions. I know I have some more stuff, but I want to see if the panel has anything. Anybody got any questions? Put your hand up. Speak now. This is awesome stuff. I see Karen. I see your hand going. I think Robert is one of your favorites. You've been here.
I'm going to hire her to be my publicity person or something.
Come on, Karen.
Hi, Robert. I was
Karen,
so excited to hear that you was coming on today.
Thank you. It's good to see you.
It's so good to see you. And you have such an amazing go-give spirit. It's just beautiful. And you're right. There is sometimes in life, we go through things and we don't understand why we are actually going through them, but it is for the purpose for someone else. And you see that in your life because you're so passionate about sharing your story, helping someone else. So like you said, you don't know why that happened to you, but the intention was, to me, to help. Look at how many lives you have touched. Look at how much you have done unfortunately, from your injury, but it has brought so much happiness and so much joy, not just to yourself, but to so many others that didn't see it from that perspective. You have a whole new outlook on life, and even going to the ice cream store, the yogurt store, that you did not value it in the same way before your incident. So thank you. And you just keep doing what you're doing. And I hope that I get the opportunity to meet with you in person. Don't know if that's going to happen, but I would just absolutely love if I can't get a hug, just to shake your hand, because you are my hero.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh,
all right, Robert, we got to do for the cape on you.
Thank you, Karen. That really means a lot to me. Thank you so much.
That's awesome. Karen, thank you for that. Is there anyone else? Okay, hey, I see Bernadette. I see your hand up. You got to mute yourself. Unmute yourself. I got to unmute you? Oh, man. What is this? Let me see. Bernadette, where are you? Let me see.
We can't hear you, Bernadette.
I know she's asking to unmute. So
okay.
There we are.
How about now?
Very good.
I got you.
Okay. I noticed that you seem to fill other people's cups. And I wondered, aside from volunteering, how do you fill your own cup at the end of the day? Like, what self-care do you do? Or, yeah.
That's a good question. Thank you for that. Now I have grandchildren, so that's a treasure. I want to be the role model for them. Like I had great role models. the staying in shape, the cycling, the rock climbing, snowboarding if we have a good winter, eating healthy, feeling good, taking care of myself that way. Those are things that I do that, I feel good. And I one of the earlier radio shows, one of the gals, she had her background, which was the Golden Gate Bridge, even though she lived in Florida or New York or something. And I said, I crossed that bridge 2 times today, which I also did today. But one thing, when I'm going into San Francisco, there's a tunnel called the Waldo Tunnel. You come through the tunnel, you go down this hill, and you have a view of the bridge, a view of the skyline of San Francisco, and the fog coming in. Usually the fog is coming in, but having that in my day, it just gives me chill. Every day I see it. People come from all over the world to see the Golden Gate Bridge, and I get to drive there. And also, it has an amazing bike path. One side of the bridge path is only for bikes. You can't walk on it, only for bikes. So it's a wonderful bike ride. So these are things that I just mentioned that fill my cup, if you will. And maybe I don't sometimes I have to check myself and make sure I fill that cup. That's a very good point, because sometimes you get a lot of energy goes out and you forget about yourself. So it's good to keep that in check. And thank you for that question. It's really good. And I try to be aware of that and keep that energy going in those ways that I just mentioned, having, staying in shape and eating right and resting and all that. So thank you.
Thank you, Bernadette. Thank you, Robert, for that. Anybody else? Well, Robert, I'm going to ask you, man. I know it's a lot. It means a lot. You helping others means a lot. Without that aspect of your recovery, what do you think, or where do you think that would have put you? Without being able to do those things,
it would have been a very, very different outcome. And I mentioned this in one of the earlier shows, and I'm happy to share it again. I remember the moment, when I'm going to get better, and I was getting better enough to where I could stand and walk and go to the bathroom. And, ICU said, if you can eat on your own, go to the bathroom on your own, dress yourself, you can get out of here, you can go home. So anyway, there was this excitement, the swell of excitement of friends and family and this whole network of people that were, they donated blood and they would, come to visit me and were sending me letters and calling and all these things. So when they heard I was out of the hospital, they wanted to visit me and call and wow, exciting. And that kind of wore off a little bit. They were excited for me, don't get me wrong, but that daily excitement and phone calls and how are you and can you walk and can you breathe, can you use your fingers? All that kind of wore off, and there was a period of time when it was kind of quiet and I wasn't getting a lot of phone calls, even though everyone knew I was going to be okay. But I remember the time I was sitting on the couch in the morning. I got dressed and did all my cream and all the care I had to do and hygiene and such. And I turned on the TV and I sat there for about 15 minutes and I said, no way, I'm not doing this. I turned off the TV and I didn't look at the TV for I don't know how long. And I started walking. I walked out the driveway, went down the street, one house, came back next day and took a nap. I was tired. And then the next day, 2 houses down the street. The next day, 3 houses down the street. The next day, the end of the street. The next day, I can go on the trail for just a little bit. So I started adding to that. And I wanted, I talked about the inspiration was for me to recover, were all those folks who were there plugging for me, donating blood, cheering me on. I didn't want to let them down. So that's what I focused on was I want to get back on that bike. If I can, great. If not, fine. I'm going to be hiking for the rest of my life, whatever it might be. But
right.
I was able to get back on the bike and able to do the 100-mile ride and you think I could do a 200-mile ride and so on. And I'll have you know, after I did my first 200-mile ride, the following Monday or Tuesday was my next physical therapy appointment. And they came in and said, congratulations on your ride. We're kicking you out of physical therapy because you're in better shape than most of our staff. you're out of here. Good job. See ya. So that's when I got kicked out. So it would have been very different, to answer your question. I would have been at home having a social worker visit and just sitting alone. And I'm sure that people go through that and don't have the resources that I had and the friends and family that I had. And I hope that I could get through to them through my recovery, through the Burn Foundation, that people were brave enough to reach out to the foundation and to hear my story if I could help them, So I know my recovery would have been totally different, completely different.
Well, for yourself, you had mentioned that just stopping at the yoga shop or things like that, things that you had did before, but now that you had went through the accident and you're coming out of it, you're recovering, and these things now take on a whole new meaning. Something as small as stopping at the yogurt shop now seems it means something different. Those things, in my eyes, may have contributed and helped you mentally, emotionally, to recover, to continue on in your recovery without anyone else, just things that you maybe and I think sometimes maybe because we just take things for granted, and now that possibility those things could have been taken away, they could have been gone. Now this means so much to me just to be able to do this, so now I cherish all of these things, so now that's going to motivate me a little more.
And thank you for that. And there was a saying I heard, and I don't know if it applies here, but the greatest things in life aren't things. Those were little, like call them like the cherry on the top of the cake, or the little bonus. Those, my favorite pizza, my favorite yogurt. There's a Puerto Rican place in town that is incredible. Those are extras. Those are bonuses. But of course, the connections with the people, and all my cycling friends before, during, and after my recovery, we have a bond. It's there. And even talking to my friends' kids who weren't burned necessarily, but are going through a hard time, perhaps needed a little kick in the butt, or just a little story to share. Here's my story. Here's what I did. Here's my path. I think you can do this, and you're able-bodied. Look what I had to go through to get back in shape to do this. So, you have a lot to be thankful for, I tell people, because you didn't have to go through a traumatic injury to realize these things. You have it right here. Go get it.
That's right. Well, anybody else have somebody had something down there. Who you have? Let's see, what did you say?
Something about an actor.
I just said, who would you have as an actor play you in a movie of your life?
Well, how about a young Harrison Ford? I wear a hat. Because, I want to keep the sun off my skin. However, it's become my autograph. That's my statement, if you will. And people say, oh, you look like a cowboy. I said, well, Indiana Jones is a better fit because I enjoy adventure, rock climbing, and all that. So maybe a young Harrison Ford.
That's good. That's good. I would have said that. I would have said Harrison Ford.
Not knocking that I know he's older. He's great. He has a lot of fun with his career, and he was the Indiana Jones series, but the first one, oh man, he was so good in that. It was so exciting.
Has anybody else got anything? Anybody else have anything? No. Listen, Robert, I am excited. Oh, I see Tony's hand up. Tony, come on. You gotta unmute.
Robert, once again, great show, man. I love being a part of your life, and may God bless you, man. Over and over again, you're a hero to me. I mean, humble isn't the word, man. In a way, I agree with you about you embracing the fact that you got burnt. Because, like, I think you getting burnt really, really showed you how precious life is. And, you know, you're grateful for everything, and it shows. And for you guys watching, Robert, stay tuned and get your popcorn ready. Get your popcorn ready.
You know, I wanted to say thank you for that, Tony. That really means a lot to me. I'm getting choked up hearing that, and as well as the other accolades. Yeah, I had a pretty good grip on life before my injuries. You know, I really enjoyed being healthy and cycling, and my friends and family and nieces and nephews and all that. It kicked it to another level, is what that did. You know, I'm not saying I didn't have a life before that. It really just kicked it up to another level. Thank you for that.
Hard to explain. It's hard to explain, isn't it?
It is hard to explain. It's hard to put into words.
Because people that never had these things happen, you know, it's a shame to say this, but they don't realize, you know, what life can be and really about, and how precious life really is, until something like that happens. And unfortunately, we don't wish that on anybody, but it gives you a whole nother outlook and perception on life.
Big time. Big time.
And remember,
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Robert, I'm going to tell you that I am excited and anxious because I know that we'll be seeing you soon. Literally, we'll be seeing you soon, and I'll have the pleasure and opportunity to interview you face to face, up close and personal. I get to see you. I need to. I'm gonna get your autograph before the book comes out. So, because I know this book has got to come out, man. Everybody's waiting on this book, man.
Yeah, can I just tell you one quick thing, and it's funny.
Come on, man.
Before I got back to work, I was going to grammar schools with the Burn Foundation and doing things like that. And one kid, I did something that they really enjoyed. I was taking the kids on a run basically through the school, through classrooms, and having a blast. And they asked me for my autograph, and I was blown away. And she handed me, or somebody handed me, a Sharpie, which is indelible ink, right? So she was wearing this hoodie thing. It was a nice hoodie, little girl, probably 7, 8 years old. And she said, "I want your autograph. Sign it right here." I said, "I'm not going to sign your hoodie." And she leaned into me. Her face was like in mine, and she said, "Sign it." So I said, "I'll sign it on the inside." I signed it on the pocket on the inside, but she was so intent on getting my autograph, and
that's right.
So funny.
I want to make sure. I make sure that I have your autograph because I know what's about to happen, man. I know you are going to be a household name, man.
Oh.
You have networks.
I'll pay you to take my autograph.
You ain't got to pay me. I want it. See, it might be worth something later on. See, it might be worth something later on. So I'm going to get your autograph before the book comes out. We definitely
step in.
We will definitely see you. I wasn't supposed to do that. We ain't in that yet. I ain't doing that yet. I want to get a commitment that I'm going to get your autograph when you come here. I want your autograph. I think I'm going to have maybe Let Your Voice Be Heard T-shirt and get you to sign it for me. And put it in I'm gonna put it in a frame. I put the shirts in a frame, put it in a frame. It'll be worth something. Y'all laughing right now. It's gonna be worth something.
No, I second that. We're all super excited to meet you in Fort Lauderdale.
I'm excited as well. I'm very excited.
Yes,
I haven't been there in 7, 8 years.
Do you fly out of SFO or San Jose?
Oakland, if I can. It's
Oakland?
a quiet airport, but there are no direct flights, no nonstop flights from the Bay Area to either Miami or Fort Lauderdale. So it is what it is.
All right.
Thank you. We thank you, Robert. We love you, brother. And
thank you.
Have safe travels, and you be safe, man. And the panel, we love you guys. You guys keep coming, and let your voice be heard. Talk radio.
Who's this young man on the far right?
Which one is that?
Step in. Lean in, mic on, and begin. Hey! Been quiet too long, chewed up tongue. Turn down songs, clock keeps ticking on the wall. But your name's still missing from the roll call. Let your voice be heard, say every single word. From the low notes to the sky, throw hands up high. Let your voice be heard, loud, clear, undeterred. If it shakes the room, that's how you know it's you, yeah. Oh, yeah. You got a truth tucked deep in your chest. Heartbeat tapping out, say it, confess. Crowd might stare, let them do what they do. They never held a fire living in you. Let your voice be heard, say every single word. From the low notes to the sky, throw your hands up high. Let your voice be heard, loud, clear, undeterred. If it shakes the room, that's how you know it's you, yeah. Speak up, name your dream out loud. Stand up, you're the leader of this crowd. One spark, one shout, watch the silence melt. Power in your mouth is the truest thing you felt. Let your voice be heard, say every single word. From the low notes to the sky, throw your hands up high. Let your voice be heard, loud, clear, undeterred. If it shakes the room, that's how you know it's you, yeah. That's you. That's you. Step in, lean in, mic off,